Canada and its NATO allies are vowing to help tip the balance for Ukraine in its war with Russia, promising more urgently needed ammunition. That is video showing Ukraine's military firing heavy guns in the battle for Bakhmut. Right now, that's a crucial fight on Ukraine's eastern front. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calls Bakhmut a fortress, but defending that fortress and the rest of the eastern front is taking thousands of artillery rounds. A recent satellite image shows shell holes from the artillery being fired from both sides. Next week will mark 1 year since Russian forces invaded Ukraine. This morning, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says there is no sign Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for peace. And as Abby Kugathasan tells us, Stoltenberg says time and logistics are now the big challenges.
Ammunition, a major part of his remarks. We know NATO members are trying to find the balance between supplying Kyiv while also maintaining their own domestic stockpiles. The inventory is diminishing nearly 1 year into this war. Ukrainian troops fire ammunition at a rate that outpaces what Western allies can provide. And Jens Stoltenberg saying they are ramping up production of ammunition. Let's have a listen.
The production of, for instance, artillery shells, the 155, is now increasing, and that enables us to both replenish our own stocks, which we have depleted, but also to continue to provide support to Ukraine.
Now, the 155 millimeter artillery rounds he's referring to, they need more of them as they're used in howitzers, which are weapons that Western allies have provided to Ukraine. And when he was asked if there was any fear or concern that Ukrainian soldiers could potentially run out of ammunition, he didn't really answer directly. He reiterated that countries are ramping up production. We know that France has ordered some 2 billion euros worth of ammunition for this year. Germany just yesterday announced it had signed contracts with Rheinmetall, which is a manufacturer, to produce artillery domestically for anti-aircraft weapons that Kyiv uses. But the question certainly, will Ukraine get what it needs when it needs it, especially when NATO acknowledges a major Russian offensive is already underway? Heather, you were just speaking to defense expert Andrew Rasoulis, and for those who missed it, he says time remains a major factor.
The window would be between now and the summer or late summer, before the fall, because then the Ukrainians will have expended their energy on their offensive. The Russians are slowly grinding westward in a very sluggish grinding offensive. The Ukrainians are preparing their counteroffensive. And this action will actually determine where we stand politically with regard to the war.
Now, the Leopard tanks that allies, including Canada, have pledged may not get to Ukraine by spring or early summer, though. Germany gave that green light for re-export 3 weeks ago. But their Vice Chancellor, Robert Habeck, now who's part of the coalition government in Berlin, but not part of Chancellor Scholz's political party, he's saying now that the decision came a little too late. And he also took aim at the Swiss government for refusing to allow allies like Germany and Spain from re-exporting Swiss-made ammunition to Ukraine, ammunition that we know is in short supply, Heather.
Abby, what about fighter jets? Was there any clear indication from that two-day meeting about what NATO will do in response to Ukraine's repeated appeals for warplanes?
Heather, there's certainly no doubt that Kyiv wants fighter jets. President Zelensky was here in London last week, and he was asking British lawmakers for those aircrafts. Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov arrived in Brussels for this two-day meeting with a handkerchief featuring jets. So we know what they want. But Jens Stoltenberg didn't speak about jets in his latest address that short while ago. But yesterday, he did say it's not a main priority. And the British Defense Secretary explained why this morning. Ben Wallace says it's not the same as training a soldier for 1 or 2 days on a missile. Fighter jet training is a years-long process, and a jet, he says, needs more than just a pilot or two.
They come with a pit crew. I mean, I compare this to a Formula One team. You know, without a pit crew, if you were gifting fighter planes, you'd probably have to gift 200 RAF personnel, and we're not going to put those people in Ukraine. And you then have to train hundreds of people in Ukraine to look after a particular type of jet.
Now, the UK is one of the biggest military backers of Ukraine, but what we're hearing here in London, Heather, is that fighter jets are not a realistic option right now.